Let's bring in Hugh Hewitt, host of the Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network, as well as being an MSNBC political analyst. Hugh, it's always good to talk with you. I want to get right to it, because isn't this episode with the Khan family, isn't it exactly the kind of thing that confirms the worst fears of Republicans, including you, who had worried about candidate Trump months and months ago?
Well, I watched Mr. Khan with Chuck Todd this morning, Alex. He was passionate and eloquent. He was also even gracious to Mr. Trump. And what Mr. Trump said in the aftermath of the convention was awful. And I have advice for him, which is that if every member of the 6,000 Gold Star families in America, their mothers and fathers, their sons and daughters, their spouses, if all of them stand up and want to talk to you and give you their advice and their reaction, the only appropriate response is to genuinely listen, empathize, grieve with them, and then think on what they say, pray for them, and then move on. Now, the 6,000 Gold Star families in America split. I've had some of them in my studio. I've had Gold Star mothers in my studio. They're all over the map politically. But every candidate, and this applies to Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, and up and down the ballot, owe each of them undivided attention and endless respect. That's all that can be said about it. It does underscore his candidacy is going to be volatile. It does, and I want to separate now out the Khan family and talk about the politics. August will mark the first August in 56 years that there hasn't been a political convention. They used to always be in August. It will also mark the first, Black August in terms of no news coming out of a convention in which social media has absorbed everything. So whatever the candidates say and do. I also watched Robbie Mook make a complete fool out of himself with Chuck Todd this morning, not answering a direct question. That will take on synergy. I watched for the first time today Dorothy Woods, who is the widow of Ty Woods, her ad blasting Mrs. Clinton. That's going to take on a lot of energy, because into this vacuum, every story will come, and the Olympics will take up a lot of that space, but the political machine needs food. You know this, Alex. We have to report every day about something. We have to fill this airtime with something. So in the absence of a convention for the first time in 56 years, I expect one, volatility, and two, events are in the saddle. Those events will drive the narrative.
All right. But Hugh, what you said about the way every single one of us, I mean, not even just candidates, every single one of us ought to pay homage to and respect and just listen to Gold Star parents. And you are absolutely 1,000% right. Donald Trump did not do that. Is he not capable of doing that? I mean, what does it say about him that he can't do that?
Well, his empathy level is very low. And I think his campaign has to work on that. I know that the empathy level among his children is quite high. And so empathy is a learned a skill. You really do have to learn how to listen and to put yourself in the place of people who are grieving and who have sacrificed everything. But I have to say, Alex, Patricia Smith spoke at the Republican National Committee, the mother of slain diplomat Sean Smith. Dorothy Woods is the wife of Ty Woods, whom Mrs. Clinton and the State Department abandoned to die on a roof in Benghazi. They have not been responded to at all. And the American media needs to spend time talking to them as much as they talk to the Khans and to everybody else. They just need to be fair about where politics are in this business.
As you know, also, though, the mother of the ambassador who was killed in that tragedy in Benghazi, she also said to Donald Trump, stop using this, stop talking about my son. So you're getting people on both sides of the aisle weighing in. I mean, so you can't look at one without the other.
I would encourage people to Google Dorothy Woods and see the ad she made in which she responds to Mrs. Clinton telling the American people after Director Comey said she had lied, but that he wasn't going to indict her. Dorothy Woods cut a piece in response to Mrs. Clinton saying, now we should move on. And Dorothy Woods says, you don't have the right to tell me, Mrs. Clinton, to move on, because it was my husband who died on the roof in Benghazi. I think that Clinton is tenured on this. I think that Trump is tenured on this. And I think both of them need to spend a lot more time with Gold Star families, as George W. Bush and President Obama have. I think First Lady Michelle Obama has been wonderful with Gold Star families. It's not a political issue.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about Mr. Trump, who today defended the way he's run his campaign. What he said in an interview about that, which aired this morning.
I've had a flawless campaign. You'll be writing books about this campaign, and yet she's criticizing my campaign. Now, her campaign, she couldn't beat Bernie. Okay.
Well, she did beat him.
Well, barely. And there's questions even about that.
Look, there may be a lot of books that are written about the way he's run this campaign, but that assessment that he's given, does his campaign style need to change if he wants to win in November?
Well, flawless is not the first word that comes to my mind when you talk about the Trump campaign, nor the Clinton campaign. I do believe that this week, if Donald Trump returns to his basic, he's a three-pitch pitcher: national security, the economy, and the fact that Hillary Clinton was the worst Secretary of State, some would argue, in American history, between Egypt and Libya and Syria, her failure to negotiate the status of forces agreement, the Supreme Court appointments that are pending. If he sticks to the big three, he will close this gap, and they are all campaigning in or around my hometown of Warren, Ohio. They know this election is going to be won or lost in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Florida, Michigan, and maybe Wisconsin. That's where this campaign is. A five-state campaign, in essence. Maybe Virginia, New Hampshire, and Arizona get in there. But basically, they know that they have to appeal to the electorates that feel left behind, genuinely have been left behind by the globalization that goes on in America. Hillary Clinton is not going to connect with them, and she has looming over her. And I go back to Chuck Todd's interview this morning with Robbie Mook. The DNC was not only hacked, so was the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, and in all likelihood, we will find more hacks that will damage Senator Clinton, Secretary Clinton's credibility. When those emails drop, when those 33,000 deleted emails drop, the campaign will change again. So Donald Trump just needs to stay close or a couple of points ahead. He's a couple of points ahead as of yesterday. He's a couple of points behind as of today. Just keep it close and see what events bring.
Speaking of those emails, Secretary Clinton today hit at Trump over his comments that he's made about and the missing emails, remarks that Trump later said were meant to be sarcastic. Here's how Clinton responded to that. Let's listen to it.
We know that Russian intelligence services, which are part of the Russian government, which is under the firm control of Vladimir Putin, hacked into the DNC, and we know that they arranged for a lot of those emails to be released. And we know that Donald Trump has shown a very troubling willingness to back up Putin.
So the Secretary talking about this, striking at Trump over the comments about email and Putin. Is she on firm ground doing that?
Oh, no, she had a disastrous interview with Chris Wallace today on the other network. She mischaracterized Director Comey's characterization of her conduct. Director Comey, under oath, in response to Trey Gowdy, confirmed that the Secretary of State, former Secretary of State, lied on many occasions, and as a result, a perjury referral came. This morning, she misrepresented what Director Comey said about her. Every time she is asked, every time she answers about the 33,000 emails that she wrongfully deleted, she digs her hole deeper. And if I'm Donald Trump, I stay focused like a laser beam on the fact that you cannot trust Hillary Clinton to tell you the truth about anything, and that, therefore, she cannot be. I think she's disqualified from being commander-in-chief by virtue of the fact that Russians have 5 years of every electronic communication she had. Don't believe Rudy Giuliani. Don't believe me. Believe the former acting director of the CIA, Mike Morrell. They've got her. She is compromised. And as a result, she can't be the commander-in-chief. So whether or not people like Donald Trump, whether or not they think he's a jerk or the most wonderful guy in the world, no matter what, he's really the only one that can be given these two, since she is wholly compromised, Alex.
All right, Hugh Hewitt, I'll let that be the last word from you for this Sunday. Thank